What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Comic Flashback. I'm Marvel Across 316, and today we are looking at Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 19. This issue's title is Piece of Work, and now we're going to continue this storyline here. As we recall last issue, how Aunt May was walking down the steps to go into her basement where Peter Parker is at. She has some, looks like some chicken nuggets for Peter Parker to eat here, but now what is Peter Parker going to do? She says, "Are you home, honey?" And she's, "I brought you nuggets." And she's like, "Did you put the mail anywhere? I'm still waiting for that thing. Didn't happen to see it coming today, did you?" And she's like, "Peter, why aren't you answering? Where are you?" So Peter Parker sneaks through the back. He's crawling and he's going to go into the upstairs bathroom here, turns on the light, and he falls into the window and inside. Now she knows he's upstairs. He's like, "Crap." And she's like, "Peter?" And he's like, "I'm in the bathroom." Remember that big fight that Peter Parker had with Dr. Octopus? He's still swollen as we see his face. And she's like, "Are you okay, sweetie?" And he's like, this is hilarious. He said, "I have the poops." And she's like, "Oh, honey, what did I tell you about those street vendor pretzels?" And he's like, "Can we not do this right now?" And she's like, "Can I get you anything?" And he's like, "No, I just need to lie down and be left alone." And so she's like, "Well, I have dinner downstairs whenever you want it." And he's like, "Wow, I am a big time superhero." So the very next day, we recall how Craven the Hunter is coming to Peter Parker's school, Midtown High, and basically the whole crew who is filming this big show here, because Craven the Hunter is a part of this TV show, and he's basically challenged Spider-Man. He wants to hunt Spider-Man as prey and basically kill Spider-Man. I don't know how Craven the Hunter is getting away with this, but basically this is the day for filming here, and Craven is now on the scene. He's coming inside the school here, and we see that Peter Parker's face is actually healed up some. We know that Peter Parker has not only super powers, but he also, whenever he gets injured, has a super healing factor as well. But it's still swollen, and Gwen Stacy is actually going to be one of the ones that notices this about Peter Parker as she shows up and says, "Man, what happened to your face?" He's like, "Nothing." And she said, he basically says, "Well, I fell." And he said, "What did you do? Fall off the Empire State Building?" And he's like, "No, Mary Jane witnesses, didn't you, with Mary Jane?" And she's like, "Yeah, he fell down the stairs." And then Gwen Stacy's like, "Wow, okay then. Hey, don't look now, but here comes a big cheesy TV star, and here comes Craven the Hunter." He walks inside the school here, and he's basically sniffing out his game, as he calls it, his prey, and he's basically acting like a natural hunter here. And this woman's like, "Are you joking?" And Craven Hunter is not joking around. He's basically getting familiar with his environment in a way, sniffing out the school. He's looking around. He comes across Peter Parker. This ain't good. Peter Parker's face, as we can see right here. But then he walks past him, and he's like, Peter Parker looks at Mary Jane, and he's like, "Wow, this guy, is he for real?" Then we see Gwen Stacy says, "Hey guys, is it me, or does he smell vaguely of kitty litter?" And we see Craven does not like that one bit. So we see later that afternoon, Mary Jane, last issue, promised to fix up Spider-Man's costume. So she does. She uses her sewing machine and basically gives it to Peter Parker. And I mean, it fits real good here. I mean, she's basically his tailor now. And so she asked Peter Parker this question, basically saying, "What do you think about Gwen Stacy?" And Peter Parker says, "Well, she's interesting, I can tell you that." That answer basically causes Mary Jane to feel down, and Peter Parker notices that she's angry. So then there's a little bit of jealousy going on with Mary Jane. She doesn't like Gwen. She thinks Gwen might be some competition to Peter Parker. So Peter Parker notices and says, "What? Are you leaving? Where are you going all of a sudden?" And Mary Jane says, "I have a lot of homework." And Peter's like, "Wait." And she's like, "What?" And Peter's like, "Are you mad at me?" Mary Jane says, "No." And she basically says, "I just got to go." And so we see here that Peter Parker basically said something really bad to make her mad. And so we see all these snaps going on. It's basically people taking pictures here of, it looks like Justin Hammer here. Justin Hammer is a lot of trouble here as Dr. Octopus is threatening his life. He's going after Justin Hammer. He's trying to reveal to the press all of this info about Justin Hammer and how he's funded, basically creating these big superpower villains and stuff, and that's very illegal here. We see that he then gets on the phone, and I mean, this is just not a good day for Justin Hammer, I could tell you that. And so we see that Justin Hammer gets out of the elevator, and then we see this question, "How do you think I feel?" And he comes across Spider-Man here. We know that Spider-Man was trashed by Justin Hammer last issue, so now Spider-Man is going to confront Justin Hammer in person. He webs up all of these guys' weapons here so that they can't make any moves. He even webs up this woman's cell phone so she can't call 911. We then see Spider-Man confront Justin to his face, and he's like, "I was just trying to do the right thing, remember? The right thing. Ever hear of it? And so you go and trash me on the news like that. What? Trying to divert everyone's attention from the fact that Dr. Octopus is looking to kill you or something." And then Spider-Man says, "Well, I had a bad enough public image without you, thank you very much. So I just swung by literally to tell you that now you can marry Doc Ock for all I care. You deserve each other." And so Spider-Man is about to walk away when Justin Hammer throws this offer to pay Spider-Man to defeat Dr. Octopus. "I'll pay you any price." And Spider-Man's like, "What?" He said, 50,000? And Spider-Man's like, "Are you serious?" Justin Hammer says, "I never joke about money, boy." So you see here that Spider-Man's like, "First you slam me in the press for trying to help you, and now you offer me money to do what I was willing to do for free before you slam me in the press for doing it." And so Spider-Man webs away here saying, or swings away saying, "Wow, you are exactly what they refer to when they say some piece of work." So Spider-Man swings off. Justin Hammer now is not going to get any help from Spider-Man. And Dr. Octopus is basically coming after Justin Hammer. We remember Dr. Skirdick here. Dr. Skirdick is on the screen here. Justin Hammer's like, "Doctor, can you hear me?" And we see here that Dr. Octopus is on the scene. He has used his tentacle to go right through the chest of this guy here. And Dr. Octopus is now saying, "What do you think I'm doing? And I'm coming for you. And you're to blame for this." As he shows Justin Hammer here. Dr. Octopus really thinks that Justin Hammer is responsible for Dr. Octopus's condition here, when in fact it wasn't Justin Hammer that was responsible. And so we see that there's this confusion going on, but Justin Hammer is going to get in his limo. He said, "I'm going to confront Dr. Octopus." This woman's like, "Sir, do you understand that he's willing to kill you?" All of a sudden, we see here Spider-Man lands on top of the limousine here, and he's on for the ride. One of Kraven the Hunter's agents comes to Kraven saying, "Hey, you won't believe this, but Spider-Man has been sighted here. He's been on top of this limousine." And so he's riding down the Jersey Turnpike here. So you better get ready. We see that Kraven was actually with Betty Brant here. And so that's interesting. So we see that Betty Brant wants to come along for the ride, but Kraven's basically threatened her, saying, "Do New York women ever shut up?" We see here that this woman here, one of Kraven's allies is going to join Kraven for the hunt. And so now we're going to see the epic conclusion here. Justin Hammer gets out of his limousine. He notices that there's a lot of news, media, trucks everywhere, and it looks like Dr. Octopus is calling out Justin Hammer, saying, "And there he is, ladies and gentlemen of the press, the man who made me what I am today, the man who turned my life into the horror you see before you. Any questions?" And so, what is going to happen next issue as Justin Hammer is confronted by his nemesis here, Dr. Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus here? Also, how is Spider-Man going to get into all this, as well as Kraven the Hunter? We'll have to find all this out in issue number 20. I hope to see you there. And until next time, keep reading comics.